everyone. Welcome back to Cincinnati Zoo Tales. I'm Jenna.
And I'm Mark. Thanks to everyone for tuning in to yet another episode. Jenna, we've got a return guest this time.
Yes, there are very few of you that have been returners, so
we
we're
clearly
excited.
didn't scare her off the first time. We didn't do anything too horrible. So we're excited to have Jenna Lamping back. Jenna, thanks for joining us. You're a keeper in the reptile house with our reptile department. So here to talk about tortoises today. But thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
No, it was fun last time. I'm definitely here for the trivia later, too. So.
Yes.
She's been studying up.
So many people are like not excited about the trivia when I bring it up last minute, and they're scared, and I'm like, don't worry. You don't need to be. You don't need to.
All I remember last time was a lot of movie references, I think.
Yes, that's why it's like, you don't need to worry about it.
You never know what's coming in trivia, you know?
No, happy to be here.
Yeah, last time we talked to you about snakes and how there are lots of animals. It was spooky season about animals we don't actually need to be scared of. But this time, talking about Galapagos tortoises. I don't think many people are afraid of tortoises, and I doubt too many people know a lot about Galapagos tortoises. So very excited to talk about them. They are a favorite among zoo staff and zoo people and anyone who gets to meet them. So can't wait to talk about them. But give everyone just a quick rundown. I know you've told us a little bit about yourself before, but how you got into the Cincinnati Zoo and became a keeper in general.
Yeah, I graduated from Ball State University with a biology degree and immediately applied for internships. Luckily got one here at the Cincinnati Zoo in our Wild Encounters program, so got to do a lot of guest outreach. And that was actually my first introduction to the Galapagos tortoises, so fell in love with them as soon as I got here. And then after a lot of volunteering and getting to know the keepers, found out that I really, really loved reptiles, really wanted to work more with them, and worked with the keepers a lot, and eventually I got lucky enough to be able to apply for a full-time position.
So you didn't come into the zoo world wanting to work with reptiles specifically.
I wasn't sure, because I loved reptiles. I had my own snake at the time, and I loved reptiles. I loved talking about them, but I was like, elephants are cool too, But the more I hung out with them and talked with guests about them, the more I realized I loved them and I loved advocating for them. So I see them as kind of a challenge to get people to love them, and I'm all about that. So that kind of was really appealing to me too.
That makes sense, yeah. Especially you're passionate about educating people, and I think that makes sense. That's an extra challenge to we're trying to convince people to fall in love with these not so obviously lovable animals.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're so cool.
And I like that your path kind of took you through Wild Encounters. We hear a lot of keepers kind of get their start in positions that aren't necessarily quote unquote zookeeper roles.
Yeah.
It's cool that you're able to start in Wild Encounters, because that kind of gives you an introduction to husbandry, especially for reptiles. That's something I'm sure you worked a lot with in Wild Encounters, I imagine.
You had to learn a lot about their natural history, which kind of relates to the husbandry. So you kind of have to be able to tell guests where these animals are from, what kind of humidity, temperatures they like, just talking about the animals and how they behave. And so with that, you learn a lot about so many different species of reptiles and amphibians. So it kind of was a nice little starter course for me in getting to know the herp area.
So when you started as a reptile keeper, how many Galapagos tortoises did we have, and how big were they at the time?
So when I started, we still had our 4. But I do know that the ones we have now, we got them in 2008. And we had 7 at the time. And we could handle 7 because they were the size of a softball. So this was before my time, obviously, but I do remember them being in the reptile house. So they were on display in the reptile house on habitat. And they were about the size of a softball, so they were tiny. As they got to grow, after a few years, they were moved to our outdoor habitat that at the time was next to our snow macaques. So a lot of our old-time members might remember that habitat. They started to grow, and then we were like, oh boy, this was also a little bit before me, but from what I was told, everyone was like, okay, these guys are growing. Maybe we shouldn't have 7, maybe we should move 3 to another facility. So Staten Island Zoo has our other 3. And then we were left with the 4 we have now. So we have 2 males and 2 females. When I started, they were probably, I think they were still over 100 pounds, but just barely, I think. So still pretty big tortoises.
Yeah.
Michelle may not have quite been 100 pounds, but I remember I was able to pick one of them up. So now I'm thinking that maybe not be true, because there's no way I can pick up 100 pounds.
I don't know. Zookeeper strength.
I don't know. Maybe it was adrenaline or something, but they were very heavy tortoises. But now our heaviest tortoise is about 175 pounds, and that's Bruno. So they all came from the Gladys Porter Zoo in Brownsville, Texas, and they're half siblings. So they have the same mom or same dad, two different moms.
Okay.
So that's why their birthdays are separated by a few months at a time. Some were hatched a little sooner, but that's why you have a clutch of two of our girls that were in the same clutch, and then our two boys came from the same clutch.
Okay.
Because fun fact, you can kind of determine the sex of a tortoise based on the temperature that the eggs are incubated at. So females, you incubate them a little warmer, that's what you get.
I've heard that before, but I didn't know if that was like a wives' tale that,
No, it's true.
Here, but it is true. Okay,
with a lot of reptiles, you can do that.
Which just blows my mind, and I don't know if it's fair to ask you because I feel like it's probably really difficult to explain. But like, with humans, it's whatever the sperm gives X or Y chromosome.
Right, yeah.
How does heat determine that, or is it just completely different chromosomes that I don't understand?
I know that there's definitely a reason for it because it's the egg development and how quickly the egg develops. Just because, when you're incubating in a colder environment, the egg's going to take a little bit longer to develop. So it has to be, I imagine, something along those lines of how quick the baby develops, and maybe that is why it leans more female. It's like it's quicker, female's ready to go, whereas maybe the males take a little bit longer.
Huh.
I'm not 100% sure, but it's definitely the temperature. I think it's less so of the chromosome thing.
So interesting.
That's crazy.
Yeah, blows my mind.
But so you said these tortoises came to us in 2008, right?
Yes.
How old were they at the time, and then how old are they now currently?
So they were 6 months old. Palm of your hand, cute. Now they are turning 16. So we're working on a Sweet 16 birthday for them because why not? It's a big year. Getting their driver's license. I know our volunteer enrichment committee, I was going to reach out to them and be like, hey, can you make a big cardboard car or something? Get their driver's license, big cardboard driver's license.
Should have their own.
That's what I'm thinking. They can have photos.
And little info about
I think that'd be really cute. So I have a lot of ideas going. And then working with our nutritionist, make them a nice cake. Obviously not one of the cakes that we would get as our birthday presents, but birthday cake. But they love, we make gelatin birthday cakes for them and put a bunch of veggies in there. We don't feed them a lot of fruit, but I reserve fruit for them on special occasions like their birthdays, so they love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. I can't even imagine walking past and seeing them today. Imagining them as the size of a softball.
Oh my gosh, I can't even. It makes me want to cry.
Thinking of them so small. So let's start off by explaining to listeners where they're from and a little bit more of their background and natural history, because I got ahead of myself asking you about them and how old they are and all of that now. But tell us a little bit where you can find them and just some basic facts about Galapagos tortoises.
Yeah, so for anyone who may not know, the Galapagos tortoises in general are found in the Galapagos Islands. And so it's a collection of islands found far off the coast of Ecuador. Down in South America. And so it consists of multiple islands. Our tortoises in particular are from the Isabella Islands of the Galapagos, as well as 4 other species of Galapagos tortoise, subspecies. Okay. And so what's interesting is Isabella Island is, I believe, the largest of the islands. And what's interesting is there's multiple volcanoes, and each subspecies inhabits a specific kind of volcano.
Wow.
So ours is Vulcan Darwin tortoises, and they inhabit the Darwin volcano on the Isabella Island. And so what a lot of people might think is that Galapagos tortoises are like your classic image of a paradise, waterfalls and lush greenery, and that's actually not necessarily the case. It can be very swampy. There's not as access to fresh water as you would think, which is why Galapagos tortoises, when they drink, they're drinking a lot because, and we can get into this a little later, they're able to hold water for a crazy amount of time. So they will hang out in mud wallows for days, just soaking up water and getting as much as they can before moving on. Our tortoises are a domed shell tortoise. So some people may have heard the difference between domed shell and the saddleback tortoises that have an adaptation on their shell that lets their neck extend a lot higher. So those saddleback tortoises are native to more humid dry areas where they have to reach higher for cactus plants and things like that. Whereas our dome tortoises are able to kind of forage on what's on the ground, which is why their necks are not going to be as long, but still pretty long. They'll still reach. We have to challenge our tortoises. We hang brows pretty high just so that they use those neck muscles. It's important for them. But yeah,
and that's because the shell shape, it allows them to reach higher, right? So like
exactly.
the saddle shape kind of curls around their neck. Is that right?
Yeah, it's almost like an indent right behind their neck. So it allows them to kind of bend their neck way back and then up. So it allows more accessibility to the higher foliage that they could probably find, because there's not going to be as much on the ground. It's so dry there. And in total, I believe that they've settled on there have been about 15 subspecies of Galapagos tortoises historically. That number is always changing depending genetics and DNA. And I believe there were like 12 that are currently existing. So I think they just found a tortoise who had 16% DNA of an extinct tortoise.
Wow.
Which is kind of amazing. And so now they're kind of like, okay, where else can we find this? And so there's possibility that we may have that genome of this. I think it was one of our Penta Island tortoises. I can't remember which one it is, but there is genetic diversity that dates back to other extinct species. So who knows what that'll bring forward in the future, but it is interesting.
Definitely.
But they inhabit, this is the same island that is famous for Charles Darwin coming to the islands and making his observations and making his theories on natural selection. These guys have it's an amazing habitat. These islands are home to animals that you can't find anywhere else. Endemic species. Really common ones are the blue-footed boobies are a really common one. The marine iguanas, which are incredible. Incredible to see. I'd love to go there someday, but we think that the Galapagos tortoises actually traveled to the Galapagos via either floating on vegetation rafts or just floating. So if you ever come to our habitat, you might see our tortoises hanging out in their pool because they can float, surprisingly enough. They have kind of air
That is unbelievable.
sacs.
They're that buoyant. I didn't realize it.
Yeah, you're talking about 100. You see them as tanks. You know, it's so dense. But they
muscular, and
float.
bone.
They float. Yeah, it's crazy.
Where would they have floated from?
They think probably Ecuador, but anywhere probably on that coast of South America. And they just floated. The tides, I guess, took them over there.
That's unbelievable, because something that is, I think, really interesting about Galapagos tortoises and species that are endemic in general is like they're so well protected, and we question why, and it's like it's difficult to get there, so there's less human interaction, less human disturbances. But somehow they floated all the way there. But it's one of the most difficult places to visit.
Crazy. And I think it's a testament, too, to how much they're able to survive situations like that.
Yeah.
You know, so I was talking about their ability to conserve water. They can conserve water and food and not eat for a year.
Wow.
Probably even more than that.
That is
so
insane.
That's why they were poached a lot by whalers, pirates, just people coming to the islands. They see these giant tortoises. They think it's a lot of meat on this animal. I can have a live animal on our ship. When we're ready to eat it, we'll eat it. And they survive these long voyages. So that was really appealing to people back then.
Wow.
So to think that they could survive, I mean, how many days would that take to float from Ecuador to Galapagos is kind of crazy.
Yes.
And so, to your point, I think that's why the population nowadays, it's so hard to get there. And if you do get there, it's very closely monitored now. We know how precious all these animals are, and like you said, it's such an amazing ecosystem that we have to protect it, and that's what the people there want to do. And so you go there and you're with a guide. You know, you don't go really venturing by yourself. So
Are they considered endangered?
Yeah, I would say to an extent, at least vulnerable, if not endangered. You can say that about almost any island species, just because there's there's only so much genetic diversity you can get on an island, especially when they're all just sequestered into their own areas of the island. There is hybridization, and that kind of gets things a little muddy, because what do you classify it then? But yeah, I would consider almost all of them to be at least endangered.
I was reading at some point they estimated there were like 250,000, and now they're about 15 to 20,000, depending on which website you're looking at.
You're talking about total?
Yes, total. Yes.
So ours here, the Vulcan Darwin tortoises, they estimate about a little over 1,800.
Wow,
on
that's
the
not
islands.
very many at all.
Yeah, when you think about it, it's not a lot. So they're long-lived, which is helpful, and their clutch size is typically anywhere from like low teens to maybe 20s.
Okay.
So they might have some babies, but that's why it's important to continue the efforts to just keep the population going. They do feel very positive about the population, though.
Oh,
they
good.
think it's got an increased
You don't
pattern.
hear that too often these days, so
Yeah,
that's awesome to
so
hear.
I don't think we're really concerned about certain subspecies. There's some that are obviously a lot more in trouble.
You mentioned that they're long-lived. How long is their lifespan?
Typically, 150 is a good age tortoise. I think the record now is I've heard two different numbers, between 175 and 183.
Wow.
So, no, Lonesome George was
Jeez.
one of those last ones.
Yeah.
He lived really, really long.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so they live such a long time. So I always tell people, these tortoises that we have, like my kids' are going to be seeing these same exact tortoises, which is wild to think about.
Yes,
They're only 16. They're babies still, when you think about it.
So there probably isn't a ton of human-wildlife conflict on the islands, but do they have any other predators? Are the hatchlings the most vulnerable? Like, how many out of a clutch of 20 do you think would survive?
That's tough. Definitely, you're right. And the hatchlings and the eggs, I think, are the most at risk. Their only real native predator right now is the Galapagos hawk. And that one will pick up hatchlings really easy. Wow. But they've had to deal with pigs going for the eggs, rats, competition, food resources with goats. Luckily, goats have been kind of eradicated from that area. But you have to deal with certain areas of the island. Fire ants will go after the nests, which is crazy.
Gosh.
So, and those were, I don't think, native. I'm not sure. They could have been introduced. Who knows?
Okay, I was wondering how many introduced species. I don't know why I was
with how many ships went there.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that they had to deal with quite a bit. So luckily, they're kind of getting a handle on a lot of those things.
Okay.
But I would say the hawks are the biggest things. And once they reach a certain size, though, they're kind of good. Our tortoises here, we hang out, let them hang out outside overnight, so they can choose to sleep outside or come inside. We know we have coyotes around, we know we have raccoons, but they're at the size where nothing is going to bother them. They look like big boulders at this point.
Right.
So, and they don't move, so they're not going to be appealing to anything. So that's kind of nice. The only real sad thing is, like I said, the islands are kind of tricky. If you look at our tortoises' feet, you'll notice they're very tough feet, very elephant-like. They have to traverse some pretty sketchy rocks to maneuver around the island. And sometimes they get a one-track mind, and if they see a really nice bush of vegetation, their eyes are on that, and they may not know that they're stepping into a rocky crevice, and then they're stuck, and there's nothing they can do. And so that's kind of a sad situation, because you think of how long it would take for that tortoise to perish. But other than that, they do pretty well otherwise.
Do they have to worry about volcanoes? Are they worried about that taking out? I
haven't heard anything about the volcano, but
that's really negative for me to bring up. But that would scare me if they are on these islands that are volcanic and then.
I mean, they say that volcanoes are dormant, but they're dormant until they're not. So it's who knows? I don't know enough about the volcanoes on the island. Maybe historically they've gone off, but I don't think that they really. I've never read that people are worried about it.
Okay.
So maybe there hasn't been any activity or anything of note.
Yeah, you would think if people were worried about it, it'd be like a big warning sign.
They'd be like, how do we move these tortoises out? But
Yeah.
I think it's a very fair question, because who knows? Because I think, wasn't there recently a volcano, I think somewhere, it was dormant forever, and then finally recently there were some activity, which was kind of crazy to people. I don't know what volcano it was.
I know there's one in Iceland recently, but I don't know.
Maybe that's what it was.
If it affected any animals or anything. And then I think that was a worry. I could be making this up, but maybe for a teeny tiny population of Sumatran rhinos there, or maybe it's the Javan. Anyways.
Oh, in Indonesia.
Yeah,
I do
you have to
remember
worry
hearing
about
that,
one volcano could take out
the rest of
the whole
what's
island.
left.
Yes.
Yeah.
But anyways, we'll get on a happier subject. But it sounds like they're being monitored, and there are people studying them and helping to care for them in the sense of just keeping everything away or people away from doing
letting
harm.
them do what they do naturally.
Yes.
And like you mentioned, trying to get those kind of invasive species under control, because I know that's a tale that all islands face, right? Is when invasive species are introduced, they can wreak havoc on the populations there. So it's good to know that the goats are being dealt away from the island, and hopefully they're getting the rats and pigs under control as well.
Mm-hmm.
But you mentioned Michelle and Bruno, and there are two others you haven't mentioned.
Oh, Husker and Nobby.
Okay.
There are other two.
And they're all turning 16 this
16.
summer?
Yes.
Okay. And tell us their weights.
So, yeah, the two boys are about 170, 175. Husker is kind of a big female. We thought she was a male for a long time. She's been a big question mark because she's just enormous. But her and Michelle have the tiniest little tails. So that's one of the indicators that you have a female. So Husker, I believe, when I last weighed her, she was about 150, 160. And then we have Michelle coming in around like 135, 140.
Okay.
So she is, if you go to the habitat, she is significantly smaller. And she always has been. So, yeah, they've... In the past few years, we've gotten their growth to kind of plateau a little bit, which is what we've wanted. So one thing I was chatting with you about is when they were younger, they got a lot of really nutritious food items, probably a little bit too much, and so they grew crazy amounts. They are way bigger than they should be right now. So we kind of looked at them and we kind of decided, okay, we really need to slow these guys down. Seeing as where they're from, they don't have access to super nutritious food items. What they're doing is, most of the time, they're sleeping, like 16 hours a day. When they're not sleeping, they are foraging for whatever food they can find. And this is going to be foliage that's low nutritional, low caloric content. And so we all know that that's kind of difficult to replicate in a zoo, to provide so much food every day that's low nutrition. But we have a really great browse program, and we're getting even more browse than ever now, which is great. And so I get asked a lot what browse is.
Yeah,
I keep using that as a common...
We say it here, but I think it's great. I was going to say, ask you to...
Okay, yeah. So browse is pretty much any foliage, branches we get from trees, shrubs, like just bushes, plants that we grow that are edible to our animals. Being a botanical garden, having a great horticulture team, they help us out a lot. We have a browse coordinator. They help us out if they're, trimming certain trees, they're growing certain trees specifically for our animals. They also allow us the freedom to find more invasive plants on grounds, like grapevine. The tortoises love grapevine. Horticulturalists hate grapevine.
Yeah.
So it's a really good relationship there. So we're able to get a lot of that, and they have access to hay all the time now. Before, they did not like hay. They wouldn't eat hay. So it was a really slow, gradual process. We had to mix their food in with hay a little bit at a time to get them to eat it, and now they'll eat it just like, cows and horses will, which is really cool.
What kind of hay do they get?
They get Timothy.
Okay.
And then sometimes they'll get alfalfa. Which they love, but alfalfa is a little bit higher in calorie.
It's a treat for them. Huh?
It is. They love it. They'll eat it all day. So they mostly stick with Timothy. But even this, we've seen. So we're able to look on our ZIMS program, which is our recording database. We're able to see their growth chart, and where it was going up a lot, now we're starting to see that kind of go flat, which is what we want. So now we just kind of sprinkle in their diets from here to there. So
I feel like that's another possible truth / wives' tale that you hear about reptiles is if you keep an alligator in a small aquarium, it won't grow as much, or if you feed it a ton, it'll grow really fast. And it sounds like it's partially true, at least. Is there harm in? Would you just make gigantic, already giant tortoises if you continued feeding them? Right?
If they grew perfectly, that'd be awesome.
Is it dangerous for their bones, or
It is.
if they were to continue on that path of growing too quickly?
Yeah. So when you have an animal that grows too quickly, because you have to make sure that their shell is growing with them very well, and this also. There's so many factors that go in. This goes into, are they getting enough sunlight for their shell to be growing healthy and strong along with the rest of their body as well? So they're getting all of those parameters, which our tortoises are. Their shells have been growing very well too. But they grow very fast, and our tortoises, for a while, they were having a harder time moving around, getting up and feeling really active, because it was a lot of weight really fast.
Oh, okay.
So they weren't moving as well as we wanted them to. So you find a lot of issues probably with mobility, with bone density, things like that, if they're not getting what they need. The shape of the shell is not just diet. It also has to do with humidity and husbandry parameters, but it does affect the shell in certain ways. You get some pyramiding and things like that. So that's why you want a really slow, gradual process. Now you see our tortoises are walking really high. They have really good posturing. So it is something you can correct if it's not too late. If you went really, really long in doing that, it's really hard to reverse that.
I feel like you'll unfortunately see that with some people who keep turtles, not necessarily Galapagos tortoises, but turtles are reptiles as pets, and they don't know how important like the right sunlight or the right light parameters are and everything that can go into, and then the bone density and all the things. I've seen like some sad cases of. You need to really know reptiles.
What you're doing,
yes, need special things diet wise and light wise.
And light, especially, we've found out, especially recently, how crucial lighting is. I mean, just the different wavelengths that you are giving your reptiles, UVAs, UVBs, are super important. I know we have, I think there's a box turtle in our ambassador program. You can see, I think confiscation or something. She has a certain history.
Right?
Juliet.
Is that what you're thinking of?
You can tell in her shell that she didn't get quite what she needed.
Yeah.
Now she's here getting all the necessary requirements. It will never reverse what's been done. It's been too long. Too much was done at the time, but she's in a better situation now. But it just shows you what can happen, especially with their shells.
Yeah. And I imagine like muscle development is probably pretty important too for as big as these animals get.
They're
like
carrying so much weight.
Yeah, it's got to be a lot. But something I definitely wanted to ask you that you touched on for a minute is there a way to tell males and females apart? And then within the males and females, can you tell the boys and girls apart? Like if a guest is coming to check out our tortoises, how would they know who's who?
It's a good question. Yeah. So I can tell them apart just because I work with them every day.
Sure.
But so a couple ways to tell the difference between male and female tortoises. It's really hard for a really long time until they're close to sexual maturity. You kind of need to wait for a big indicator of their tails, the tail sizes. So Bruno and Nobby have very long, very big tails. When they're walking, sometimes you can kind of see them swinging them a little bit. The females are like little nubs. They're tiny. So they're just like barely peeking out under the shell.
Okay.
The classic, if you were to pet them and you reach under and touch their plastron, which is the belly, the males will have a more concave plastron for mounting females during mating season. But other than that, it's really difficult. We tried doing, I don't even think you might be able to do blood tests on them. We never did. But otherwise, it's kind of like a wait and see almost and see their behaviors.
And did you say males are often bigger than females?
Males will eventually get bigger. Okay. So our females...
But it takes a while to get there.
It takes a long time. Like, you're looking at decades right now. Right now, aside from Michelle, who is obviously different, the other three, it's really hard to tell who's the biggest. They're all very similar. But soon, I say soon, and that's like 10 years from now.
Soon in terms of their life.
To their lifespan. You're going to see Bruno and Nobby really just you're going to see pretty much Husker and Michelle stay the same, and Bruno and Nobby will start getting bigger. So when I said Michelle and Husker are around 140 and 150, 60, their max is probably close to 250 pounds.
Okay.
Which is still a pretty big tortoise.
Yeah.
It's another 100 pounds. Bruno and Nobby, who are at the 175 range, they're going to reach probably around 500 pounds.
What?
So
That's
we're talking,
unbelievable.
2 to 3 times their current size. Humongous.
Wow, so there is a huge difference.
Huge difference.
Then. Okay,
yeah.
Eventually.
Like 50 years from now, if you just come back, there's going to be a really big difference between our tortoises.
Hopefully we're all still here to see it.
I plan on being here at 80.
Yes, at least to visit.
At least to visit, you know.
So there are also, there are tons of different species of tortoises, but is the giant tortoise, is that a species? Did I just make that up? What's the largest tortoise species? Do you know?
I don't think Aldabras get larger, because Aldabras are off the Indian Ocean. But there are subspecies of Galapagos tortoises that do get bigger.
Okay.
And I can't remember which one it is, but it is able to get to like 750 pounds, which is kind of unimaginable.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've never met a tortoise. I've met a 500-pound tortoise, and that was amazing. I felt, because I've always worked with mine, you know, and so it was a crazy experience being up to this giant of an animal, you know.
Yeah.
750 pounds just seems impossible to me. So I would love to see a 750-pound tortoise one day.
Right? Yeah, that'd be a life-altering experience.
It would be a bucket list item. It'd be crazy. No, it'd be amazing.
But so a certain subspecies of Galapagos tortoise is likely the largest on Earth?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. I'm pretty sure that the Galapagos get larger than the Aldabra tortoises.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And you've talked a little bit about the habitat that they currently live in. That is a pretty new habitat. Will you walk us through a little bit about like what it looks like, how they utilize their space and everything out there?
It's awesome. So, and I can talk a little bit about it too because I was there before that big habitat also. And so I'm super happy with the overall guest experience of the tortoises as well. So in the past we had the smaller yard, but once it started getting to be about September, we had to really talk about taking the tortoises off habitat until the following late May. So you're talking, 6-7 months, where 8 months maybe, about 6 or 7, where guests weren't able to see our tortoises at all.
And that's because it was too cold, right?
It's too cold.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we, just couldn't keep them. We didn't really have a great indoor area to keep them during the winter and let them out on warm days. So we'd have to take them to another area in the zoo where they could be warm all winter. And we all kind of got together and we're like, well, these animals are amazing and guests love them and we should
be here a long time.
They're going to be here a long time. We should invest in them. And so the zoo did a great job and they talked with all of us about what we would want for our tortoises and what we could do. And we have this great habitat we have now. So we have this really great path now that the guests can come and see the tortoises. They have a huge pool that they do go and swim in, and you'll even see them kind of hanging out under the waterfall because they love the feeling of it on their shells.
I've seen that before.
Yeah, because they can
wonderful.
feel it and they like it. We put a lot of boulders in there for them to climb on. It's really important for trimming their nails and keeping their muscles really good. Kind of similar to what they would be doing in the wild. And we gave them so much space, a lot of space, visual barriers that are really important. Even the plants that are all in there are things that are browsable for the tortoises. We're working on an even better landscaping on the outer edge to pretty much crawl into the habitat so they can trim it up. A lot of prickly pear cactus, which is we're trying to grow more of because they love that stuff. That's on the island as well, and so that's kind of a more natural diet for them.
You kind of have like a garage door now, right? So
yes.
you can go in and out. You can't lift them every day to be inside or outside.
No. So yeah, we have a garage door that opens up into their indoor habitat. They have a heated floor that heats for them in the wintertime, as well as different basking areas in there. They have a pool inside as well. So on the days where it's 55 and sunny is kind of the key word there because these are ectotherms. They need to be able to heat up from the sun. We're able to just open the garage door, and we've been able to let them out at least every month of the year at some point. So it's cool being able to let your tortoise out in December and January, whereas before they were not even given that option. So it's amazing to be able to get them outside time because you open the door and they're ready to go. But it is nice too because the indoor habitat does have UV transmitting windows too, so they do get sunlight even during the winter time, which is nice. But they are, speaking of not having to pick them up, they are recall trained, which is nice.
No way! How fast do they?
Not very.
I want to watch.
It's honestly one of my favorite things. So when I work my late shift, I do love it because I go out with a bucket and they know that this bucket means food. And so I do a little lap and they're all looking and then they all kind of collectively get up and it's like a little cute tortoise parade back into the holding
Oh my
area.
goodness.
And they know that I'm going to scatter food and they kind of go in on their own. And so that's something we really wanted to work on now because when they're, another 100 pounds heavier, I don't want to be sitting out there and luring them in step at a time.
Yes.
They're going to be a lot slower.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people ask about kind of their intelligence, and so they are able to be trained in certain ways. So we're going to be working on voluntary blood training with them as well, working on their necks, getting them to scratch their necks, hold their necks out, so vets can kind of get a good blood sample.
Just so neat, and something I wanted to bring up. A lot of times if you come and you just pass by, you may not get to recognize like how big of personalities they have and like how charismatic they are because they don't move quickly. But until I met them for the first time, I met them when they were babies, like when you mentioned back in 2009, they were just tiny. But since they've been larger, since they're huge now, the first time I went was I think 3 years ago. And they just perk up when people come into their space. And of course, I'm sure food has a lot to do with it. But they also really like scratches, which I think a lot of people probably don't know or recognize that these guys have big personalities and they seem to really like attention. And they're so fun to meet. Can you tell us about their personalities? And you mentioned you can scratch their necks and they'll stretch out, and that might allow you to do blood draws voluntarily. That's how much they like it.
Yeah, so that behavior is called finching, and it is actually a natural behavior in the wild. So in the wild, the finches and the small birds of the island will get the tortoises to kind of stretch their necks out, and they'll pick ticks and other bugs out of their necks. So it's like a nice little, the birds get food, the tortoises get relieved of that pest, and they also get a nice little massage, I guess. So that kind of translates really nicely to human care, where they love their neck scratches. And there have actually even been studies, and Bruno is a living example. If I go to feed him, sometimes he just ignores the food and stretches out his neck, and he just wants a scratch.
Oh my gosh.
So they do have their own personalities. Michelle and Bruno are like, I describe them as reptile dogs. They see people come in, and they're up, and they're like, what do you have for me? So all of them really do that, honestly, because they know that they're either going to get food, or they're going to get pets, or they're going to get both. So they come over and they greet you, which is unlike really any reptile that I've worked with, and it's nice working with a reptile that really likes you in their space.
Yeah.
Most reptiles just tolerate us and let us do our thing and get out. But these guys want to engage. They want to meet visitors. They're constantly looking around and seeing what you've got. Or are you going to pet them? So Michelle and Bruno, I would say, are the most engaging. Husker is, I always say she's very mouthy. She's trying to test everything. So I always say these guys see in color. So they're always looking around at what is standing out to them, what they can taste test. Husker is testing everything. She'll be going for your shoes. She'll be going for your purse. She'll be going for all those things. Nobby, you'll see he's got scuffs on his shell because he likes to climb over the others all the time and climb between rocks and things like that. He just loves to, he's like one of those one-track mind tortoises that he sees something and no matter what's in his way, he's going to climb over it. So they all have their own unique personalities. Husker will hang out with you until she decides whether or not you have food. If you have food, great. Once she gets it, she's gone. But the other two will kind of stick around and hang out with you. So, and they'll stick around until you're gone. I mean, Michelle will follow me around while I'm cleaning, just wanting pets.
That's so precious.
Fun.
Yeah.
Do they have favorite food items?
Yeah, they like I said, we don't give them fruit a lot, but when we do give them fruit, they go crazy for it. They love pumpkin, so during Halloween time, we'll give them some pumpkin. I would say their favorite browsable items are, they love grapevine, mulberry, and hackberry.
Mulberry's the favorite around here.
Yeah, mulberry's a big hit.
Yes, whenever you get mulberry, you just get so excited for your animals. You know they're going to love it. So yeah, otherwise they love sweet potato and carrots too. It's one of their favorites.
I know that there are opportunities for guests to see them throughout to feed them throughout the day, right? Is that still going on? And then there are behind the scenes tours, or are the feeding times no longer happening?
The feeding it occurs during the behind the scenes paid tours.
Okay, so there used to be opportunities where it was like Wild Encounters would have food.
Well, yes. So the Wild Encounters team will put food out. So I'll drop off browse or something for them. They put the food down, and then guests can come in and pet the tortoises while they're eating.
And that's not a paid tour, right? That's just certain
free.
times of the day.
Yes, during our summer hours, every day at 2 o'clock.
Okay.
Currently.
Okay.
So yeah, you can come in, and there's usually a line right there. You just walk through. You can scratch them on their shells, and that's a really cool experience to be able to be up right next to them. And then we have our paid tours. I believe they're $50 a person, and they occur on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. And those are the more personal ones. So they're limited to, I think, 5 per day. And you meet with a keeper, usually me, and pretty much you get an up-close personal experience with me. You get to meet all of them personally, scratch their necks, feed them. You can feed them yourselves, and you can really touch all over their feet, under their shells, things like that. It's a more personal experience. With a lot of people coming in with the encounters, you just want to make sure that hands and fingers are where they're supposed to be. But you still get to be up close for free at the 2 o'clock one.
And I just want to highlight, like, it is way more. I don't want this to come out the way it's going to come out, but it's way more fun than people expect. Like,
oh gosh, yeah.
Like you mentioned, like a low expectation. People come with low expectations, which is a good way to put it. And then you get in there and you're like, this is so fun. And you have to, like, I had my family in there a month or so ago with Jenna, and I had to, like, drag them away. Like, they had a million questions and they had the best time ever. But when I first said, we're going to see the tortoises, I don't think anyone was like, amazing, you know, but it's a bummer because they should.
It is, and I want so badly for people to understand how amazing they are. But like I was saying before, it brings me joy seeing them realize it on their own. So I think people, the tortoises are very underrated, I think.
Yes.
They come in and they don't expect these tortoises to be as charismatic and as engaged with the public as they are. They're a great starter animal, a starter reptile for people, like you said, who are a little fearful of reptiles. And it kind of opens their mind to like, okay, if these tortoises are like this, what do these other reptiles do? But it never fails. I have people come in and their faces as they're going through this tour is one of, I did not expect this at all. And everyone is leaving smiling and happy and like, this is not what I expected. This was great. I loved it. I did one today and I had that same experience. And it's honestly my favorite part of the tour.
I bet. Yeah, it's so fun.
Because I just want everybody to love them and know them and I forget sometimes.
I did my job.
Yeah, I forget that people don't see what I see all the time.
Yeah.
You know, so it's nice. You know,
underrated is a great way to put it. I've seen many zoo visitors who have come in and said, I didn't even know what a Galapagos tortoise was coming in, and then you leave and it's one of your favorite animals because they are so engaging when you get to interact with them.
And you realize how big they get and where they come from is fascinating. The Galapagos Island seems like such a mysterious place.
Sure, yeah.
You know, that I've met a few people who've been there, but it's one of those places that you're so lucky if you get to go there. You know, it's on my bucket list, but it's like a wondrous place. And you want to see all this crazy wildlife.
Oh my gosh, yeah, the diving iguanas, marine iguanas.
Oh my gosh, those are
penguins
so
too,
cool.
and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, you see penguins there. It's crazy. It's wild.
It's madness. I did want to ask one question. You touched on it just a second ago. I don't think a lot of people realize that turtles and tortoises can feel through their shells.
Yeah,
I was talking to a family member about this recently, and they thought they had compared it to like a backpack, and I was like, no, it's not like that. Like they thought
touched your backpack.
Yeah, like someone touched your backpack, and I was like, that's not it at all.
That's really adorable,
Explain
though.
it. How they're thinking.
Do they actually like? How sensitive is it for them? Like, do they feel every touch? Do they respond to it when you touch them?
Yeah. So when they're sleeping, because I don't want to come up and be like, bang, bang, and be like, hey, what's up? Good morning. I go and I'll like do gentle scratches, and then they'll kind of startle awake. So they can feel anything as soft as a little touch of your finger. I even show people when you scratch the back of them, like their butt, they'll do a butt wiggle because they can feel it and they love it. So that's why when we're hosing them down, we'll hose their shell and they'll move with it too. So they have nerve endings that go all over their shell. So it's an interesting way to perceive tortoises because we think of them as tanks, right? And their shells are all protective. And we think that, okay, let's say you have a small turtle and it's getting preyed on by a predator, right? Oh, it's not feeling it, it's fine. They actually do feel it. Mm-hmm. Yes, they're good, and the shell is serving its purpose. It's protecting all the important stuff inside, but they still feel the bites, the scratches, everything like that. They're just tough animals, and they can endure that kind of thing, but they do feel all of that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, it's a very common misconception.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I know ours are tortoises, but you mentioned they still love water, right? Even people think turtles like water, and tortoises don't like water. But you mentioned them hanging out under the waterfall.
They
it's
do.
one of my favorite sights.
Yes, it's amazing. And water isn't for all tortoises. Like our pancake tortoise will not go swimming, right? But these guys, they love the water, and it's kind of amazing watching such a giant animal float.
And you said they can soak up. Oh, and I think you said you were going to go into it a little bit further, but they can hold water.
Yeah, so tortoises, they can kind of take in water from their cloaca, which is their all-purpose hole, right? Birds have them too.
I like that.
All eggs, breed, all that good stuff. And they can take water through there, and they can just hold on to it. And so that's what made them very desirable for whalers and pirates. They can hold food, or they can preserve, the food and water for over a year. It's amazing. So they don't have to eat or drink anything for a year as long as they have kind of prepared themselves a little bit. So that's what made them really easy targets for poaching. Pirates, whalers would come in, see these giant tortoises, see them as a very optimal live food source they could keep on their ships with them. Their oils were used for lamps. Their shells were used for different, I don't even know what they would, bowls and medicinal things like that. That's all I can think of. That's actually really funny. be a giant sled. But yeah, lot of meat, and so they were really roughly poached for that. So, but it's kind of an amazing thing that they're able to do.
Is it like a backwards bladder? Like, I don't understand how they can just hold it and their body just uses it when absolutely
when they
necessary.
need it, I guess little bits at a time too. I don't know exactly how it works.
We're gonna also need to do a vet episode on cloacas because I have a lot of questions.
Cloacas are really fascinating, honestly, when you really think about it.
Things can come in, things can go out, but they don't. Like,
how do they not meet each other?
How do eggs stay when they have to use the restroom? How do they not plop out?
That's a very good question.
Yep. Do you want to join that episode?
I would love to be like a guest star on that. Bring in Dr. Mike.
Yes. Have somebody on to explain cloacas to me. Anyways, sorry folks. I'm a little embarrassed by my sled comment and now my cloacas comment.
I love the sled comment.
Nothing to be embarrassed about, I'll say.
What else could you use a shell for? That
I don't know.
A bathtub.
Okay. Maybe a bathtub.
Maybe.
Or just a water basin.
Oh, yeah.
The water, yeah.
Like
a water trough. These
yeah.
poor tortoises.
I know.
I didn't mean to go down that route again, and I did. Was there anything else you want to tell us about Galapagos tortoises in general that, like, you love or are like, specifically the ones that live here? Or we can move on to trivia if Mark doesn't have any more questions.
Yeah, I don't know if this could possibly be a trivia question. I don't know, but I wanted to address another misconception about tortoises. I get a lot of questions of, can tortoises and turtles leave their shells?
Oh, yeah.
Is that one of the...
Not on trivia.
Okay, cool.
Trivia.
I get that a lot, because people see hermit crabs, and they're like, can they, like, switch shells? But no, they're actually, even if you look at them, you see they're completely attached. So their shell is their home, and so they're carrying their entire home with them their entire life, and it's kind of amazing to watch their shell grow with them as they get bigger. And a lot of people think that the shell makes up most of the weight, but it's actually not true. It's they've got a lot of muscle, and their organs and everything in there is just a lot of weight too. So the shell doesn't even make up majority of that.
Is the shell, like, I've learned that bird bones are more hollow and less, like, dense than human or mammal bones. Is that true for tortoises?
No,
are their shells more hollow or no?
Oh, their shells?
Yeah, the shells specifically. Because that's bone, right?
Yeah. So just like when you find, if you ever found like a dead tortoise in the road or a turtle.
I think that might be where the misconception comes from, right? Because if you find one that's completely decomposed,
yes,
the shell will still be there, but the muscle and the other bones will not be.
Exactly. And that's probably where that came from. Honestly, so that's actually a really good point.
But the shell is like, is it lighter bone, you think? Or
it's like keratin, so it's made up of the same materials as our hair and fingernails.
Okay, see, I thought that was just the outside. I didn't realize the whole thing.
I think it's the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah, the whole thing is, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that is.
A lot of people ask about, the maintenance, just like their nails and their beaks too. So they don't have teeth, they have like ridged beaks. And so they kind of trim their own beaks, otherwise it would really grow out. And they also don't chew, so they just swallow things whole, which is kind of wild. But yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, and I'm learning
so much I could talk about. I'm like trying to be like, what else can I mention? Yeah.
Well, if you're up for it, Jenna, I do have some trivia.
Let's do it.
For each of you, if you're down. So our first question today, we're starting off with tortoises, but not Galapagos tortoises.
Okay.
So the oldest living tortoise is actually a species that you mentioned, the Aldabra. Aldabra tortoise right now is the oldest living tortoise. His name is Jonathan. How old is Jonathan?
Oh, I think
She brought that up, right? Is this Lonely
that
John?
was George.
Oh, George.
Oh, Jonathan. I think I did hear of Jonathan.
I feel like I've heard of Jonathan, too. He's been in the news.
He's 187? 187?
Jenna? Other Jenna, you ever guess?
She's right. 183.
You guys are both really close. And this is a quote-unquote estimate. They estimate he's about 191.
Wow.
Is the current estimate.
I didn't know that.
Why have we heard of him? Was he...
Jonathan sounds so familiar.
Yeah, was he popular in the last few years?
I know that he's been on like news stories and stuff because he's considered the oldest living animal.
How do they know the
currently.
records?
So they estimate he's 191 because there's photos of him from the late 1800s where they can estimate his age based on his size. So there's like photos of him from, I don't know the exact year, from like, 1890 or whatever, and they're able to say,
he was an adult then?
based on his size, standing next to a human, he looks like he was about 60 years old or something like that.
Oh my gosh.
So Yeah, they
I
estimate it's about
remember. Yeah, I'm
190.
gonna
I love
look,
that.
look into that again. But I remember it being an interesting story. Like
Yeah.
Jonathan, for some reason, Jonathan Tortoise sounded.
But
I didn't know it was
191's
Aldabra.
crazy. But like you mentioned, the Galapagos, this is Aldabra, so they're a different species from Indonesia.
yeah.
But the Galapagos tortoises can get just about that old.
Almost that, yeah.
Which,
It's amazing.
you know, our kids are going to be here to see
That's
that.
right.
Like, honestly.
what was the Lonely George?
Lonesome George.
Lord's. I'm just making things. up.
Lonesome George, you got it.
Lonesome George. What's his story?
I think he was, correct me if I'm wrong, Jenna, please, but I think he was the last of his subspecies surviving,
Yes.
Oh,
right?
okay.
Yeah,
Yes, he was the last one, and
Okay.
then now they were extinct.
Okay.
But I think his might either his or another one that they might have found the DNA of that one in another tortoise.
Okay.
But then there was Harriet, which I believe was in Australia. I think the Irwins had her, and I think she was one that like knew Darwin or something.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jenna just said air quotes. New Darwin.
New Darwin. like the Darwin, like Charles Darwin.
She met Darwin.
I love that you mentioned it earlier, though, because, like, I think, like, at least in my brain, like, I always kind of associate with Darwin, like, the finches and the tortoises. Like,
Yeah.
whenever I hear Galapagos tortoises, one of the first things I think of is Darwin.
Darwin.
But
Yeah.
I hadn't heard of Harriet, so that's an interesting story.
Yeah, she was alive for real. She was also very old-lived.
Okay.
Long-lived tortoise.
She knew Darwin. She must have.
She must have. She's a very famous tortoise, clearly.
All right, next trivia question we've got. Jenna, you mentioned this one, so I'm going to let Jenna Wingate answer it first. All right,
Did I listen?
how many, there are different subspecies of Galapagos tortoise depending on which island they come from, and even within the same island there could be a few different subspecies depending on the diversity of the terrain and the habitat that they're found in. But how many existing species of Galapagos tortoises are there? Jenna had it exactly right.
It's 15, right?
So 15,
Dang it!
but you're really close. 15 at the most. Some are extinct though. So
Oh.
how many are still living? There were at one point 15
Say 4?
species. It's 12. But you're close because almost 4 were extinct. So I think you just had the numbers switched in your head. Yeah.
I don't remember hearing 12
But no, you're right on though. So there were at one point there were 15 species of Galapagos.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 15 subspecies of Galapagos tortoise, depending on where they came from. Several of them are unfortunately extinct now, but there's 12 living species of Galapagos tortoise still left.
Subspecies.
I keep saying species, subspecies.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Yes, subspecies of Galapagos tortoise left. Which would you remind me which island ours came from and which ours
The
are?
Isabella
I could have told you
Isabella.
that. Dang it.
I should have let
Let her redeem herself.
Do you remember which volcano ours was?
Darwin something.
Darwin volcano.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, did I bring that up? That they all like different. The 5 different live on different volcanoes. Did I talk about
Yes.
that? Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I think it's such an interesting.
That's
tidbit.
fascinating.
Yes.
Yeah, I love it. All right, we're 2 for 2 so far. Moving on. This is based off. So the question is, I'll say the question and I'll give a few stipulations. About how long does it take a Galapagos tortoise to walk a mile? This is assuming that the tortoise doesn't just decide to sleep or sit down or whatever
Okay.
in the middle of the walk, but based on their top speed. If they just kept walking, at that
0.16.
pace.
Wait, what size Galapagos tortoise?
Oh.
It's a big difference.
I don't have the size of Galapagos tortoise in front of me.
Mine are pretty quick. Yeah, if we're talking adult, that'd be a long time.
Yeah.
0.16
A
miles
mile?
per hour is what I swear I read they can go.
0.16?
Yeah.
0.16. Let me do the math in my head.
I can't do that. That's pretty
Yeah, that's spot
I'm
on.
gonna go with
Yeah.
half a day.
There you go.
So about 12 hours.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's go with half a day.
Jenna, do you have a guess?
No, you did, unless you do the math for me.
0.16 would put him at about 7 hours for a mile, and that's the estimate.
Oh, is that the
between
estimate?
6 to 8 hours. Yeah.
Okay, all
It's somewhere
right.
between 6
That's
to
a
8
long
hours.
time.
It's still a long time, even if they don't take a break. And like you
Yeah.
mentioned, they spend a lot of time sleeping.
They do.
So
A lot of time.
you might be way more 6 to 8 hours if it decides to take a nap in the middle of that mile.
I guess they wouldn't really have a reason to just walk a straight mile, right? They would just...
Yeah, they would get so
Yeah.
distracted.
Yeah, surely they're going to see some sort of
Oh,
food
gosh.
or browse or
Yeah.
something that they're going to want to munch on.
They will never
Yeah.
get to that mile.
All right, last question I have for you. We obviously all know the story of the tortoise and the hare. The tortoise wins the race. Spoiler alert. The tortoise wins the race. In the tortoise and the hare story, do you guys remember the name of the tortoise?
Oh no.
There was a name? Thomas.
Thomas, you're not too far off. It starts with a T.
Trevor.
Trevor. It's actually Toby, which I thought was cute. Toby the tortoise. I was like,
That doesn't spark any memory. No,
I didn't. I've never.
if we ever get another Galapagos tortoise, I want to name it Toby.
You can totally
I
do
think
that.
that'd be awesome.
You can totally do that.
Oh man, thanks for being a good sport.
Good
Playing
trivia.
along.
I
Yeah,
love trivia.
Appreciate you.
Great.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you guys.
Jenna, do we have anything else for our tortoise expert while we have her?
Just our final question. What can I do?
Yeah. So one thing I always tell people,
Talking turtles and tortoises, even around here, you're driving along road, especially those rural back roads. Turtles, especially box turtles, snapping turtles, sliders, they love to cross the road to get to where they're going. And unfortunately, you see a lot of smashed turtles. So I would always say is when you're driving those areas, maybe slow it down a little bit, take extra time to maybe look on the road, see if you see any. If you do happen to see a turtle trying to cross the road, and you're able to safely pull over, it's always kind to help the turtle go in the same direction it's going. So I always tell people, safely pick up, especially if it's a snapping turtle, right? Pick up kind of from the back, and just move them safely across the road to the other side, the direction they're going. That way they can go on their way and they don't end up being a casualty of the road. So, you unfortunately see quite a bit, especially during the summertime when they're trying to get to different water sources.
And there are a lot of times in the spring, right, when, especially like snapping turtles, they don't travel a ton, right? But, well,
Right.
I could be wrong. But I always thought that, like, females specifically will leave to lay eggs. So if you're seeing them, is that true? Like, if
Yes.
a female snapping turtle is out of the water and she's big, it's usually to lay eggs somewhere. So you want her to continue in the direction
Yeah.
she was going because she probably has a good spot in mind or something that they're sensing that we don't know.
Yeah, a lot of the turtles will do that. They kind of roam and they're looking for an ideal spot to build a nest and or a hole and lay their eggs. So yeah, a lot of times you see a smashed turtle too, you could potentially be killing a mom with babies or eggs in there. So yeah, it's really important for them to be able to travel and be on their way. And that's why assisting them in the same direction is really important too, because you don't want them to feel like they have to turn around and go back across the road.
Do you know why, if they're living in their their lake or their pond or whatever water source they have, why they wouldn't come out a few feet, lay eggs, and then go right back in the water?
It could just be not the ideal environment for them. They might not see it suitable or safe enough for whatever reason. Or it could be where some turtles typically have a certain path that they go, and it's kind of a routine for them, and they'll go back to kind of similar spots that they have in the past. Territory also could be occupied by other turtles.
Okay. And so, yeah, you want to try and make sure they're going in the same direction. If they are on the road, move them from the road, but in the same direction they were going. And then also, especially with the snapping turtle, but all turtles, you don't want to be bit by one of their beaks, but it's not safe for the turtle or ideal to be picked up by the tail. Is that correct?
Yes. Don't ever pick a snapping turtle up by the tail. It's all connected to like its vertebra there too. So it's not nice. It's kind of like if you were to pick up, a dog wouldn't want to be picked up by the tail either. So obviously some people do it because they're afraid to get bit, but there are safe ways to pick up by the back of the shell, and really you'll just have kind of their feet to deal with, and you'll be well out of the way of their face. So yes, definitely don't pick up by the tail. The shell is the safest option. And then just gently, kindly move them to the side.
And don't take them home with you either. A lot of times people find a
Yes.
baby turtle or a turtle in general or a box turtle, and they take them home to keep as pets. We mentioned it's difficult to give them everything that they need between
Yes.
the right light sources and food and everything, but also I think for all of them it's probably illegal.
It is.
At least
Our-
most species.
All native reptiles here are illegal to keep. A lot of people, we have the luxury of having one of the most beautiful box turtles out there, and of course it may look appealing, but it is illegal. They are protected, and like Jenna said, it takes a lot of research, and turtles are, you can go wrong very easy, and like we talked about, it's really difficult to reverse. So you really just want to let them do their thing, let them do what they do best, and hang out in the best place for them, which is nature. So
Yeah, I love that one, especially like you mentioned, timely. That's really timely for this time of year. I feel like late spring, early summer is when you really start to see turtles,
especially babies,
trying to get to different areas, dispersing from their nests, all that kind of stuff. So hopefully you're on a road where you can safely pull off. And like you mentioned at the start, just when you're on those kind of back woody roads, take it a little slow. If you're going too fast, you might not even see it until it's too late.
Yeah.
So
plus, it's nice to go slow in those areas anyway. There's a lot of cool wildlife out in those rural areas that you may not notice. So I'm always looking for snakes, even snakes crossing the road. Those apply too. You know, they're crossing the road as well. So, take it slow. You might miss something really amazing that you might see.
I love it, and it goes with the tortoise theme. Slow,
Like slow and steady.
Like
Take it
Toby.
slow, like Toby. You'll get there eventually. You know.
Well, thanks, Jenna, for coming back, and you're always so great to listen to. You're a great educator.
You guys are
so
awesome.
Thank
You're
you
so
for
fun.
coming, and
Thank you for having me.
we'll let you know if we do a special Cloaca episode.
Oh yes, let me know. I'd
for that.
love to be there. Sounds great. I endorse it.
oh, you're the best, Jenna. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, you guys.
To all you listeners, thank you for tuning into another episode. We're excited. Until next time.
Have a good one.